Hello, we are going to continue with our chapter 14 information. And we compared a little bit about banks and we looked at different types of checking accounts and savings accounts, just briefly, I know. But we're going to talk a little more about checking accounts, how to write a check and such, and do a little comparison between savings accounts with annual percentage rates versus how often things are compounded, etc. So I just wanted to talk about a few words that we need to be aware of. First of all, these aren't hard words and they may be obvious to us, but I'm still going to touch base about them. Checking account balance. Okay, so that's the amount of funds that you have available in your checking account to cover things like checks, automatic debit card uses, and so on. Okay, now sometimes checking accounts will offer what they call overdraft protection. That's an automatic loan made to an account if the balance will not cover all the checks written. Usually this can be part of a package where you have a checking account and a savings account at the same bank. So the bank says, well, if you have, X number of dollars in your checking account and you write more checks than the amount of funds you have, they will automatically move money from your savings account to your checking account to make sure you don't bounce any checks, right? A bounced check is a check that you wrote where there's not enough money in the bank to cover the check. Okay. Now let's say you wrote a check to someone, but you need to you don't want it cashed. Maybe the agreement you had with this particular person didn't work anymore and you aren't going to give them that money. Well, the only way for you to stop that person from cashing a check is to go to your bank and get a stop order payment. That basically says, I want this bank not to cash check number, who knows, 325 for this amount of money. Now, fees may apply. That's a kind of a pain in the butt for the bank to have to do. They have to flag it in their system. So if someone tries to cash the check with this amount, with this check number, they have to stop it. So fees may apply and probably do. Sometimes you get like one stop order payment on your checking account a year or something. Okay? Now, when we talk about endorsing a check or the endorsement, that's where it's the signature of the payee, the person to whom the check is written. So when you get a check, let's say from grandma for your birthday, if it's made out to you, you have to endorse it on the back of the check where you write your signature. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then there is this thing called a check register. Lots of times it's online now, but it used to be actually a physical book that you used to record all the activity in your checking account, whether it's checks written, debit card charges, right? Deposits, interest, and so on. You would capture all that so you would know how much money you have at any time in your checking account to use. All right, let's talk about writing a check. Here's an example of a check. John Smith went from anywhere, Illinois. Okay. The beauty of a check is that you can tell the account number and the routing number of the bank right on your check. It's important, right? So this number right here, this is the routing number, and this identifies the bank. Okay. So if you have a checking account through Bank of America, all right, they have one routing number. If you have a checking account through Chase, they have a different routing number. Okay, it identifies the bank. The account number, your account number for your checking account is right here. So if you went, or you asked your parents, if you don't have a checking account, I understand, or checks, I should say. If you pulled out your parents' a pack of their checks you would see that in this bottom left-hand corner, that is the actual account number. Okay? And then this is the check number, and that matches this. Now, the reason the check is written this way is that, have you ever been at Kroger or wherever someone wrote a check, they can send it through a reader, and it automatically reads this bottom portion. So it automatically sees the account number, your account number, the routing number, which identifies the bank, and the check number. Okay, so this is so that it can be read by some electronic reader. Same thing if you took a check to the bank and you cashed it, they will send it through a little reader so that it automatically reads this and basically takes that information and puts it right into their computers. All right. So let's talk about how you fill out a check. I guess I can't erase these too easy. If I want to write a check to someone, so let's say I'm going to write a check to Sam Smith today, which is 3/29/2020. I need to write him a check for $10.51 for some toilet paper that he got for us. Haha, right? So here it says pay to the order of. So this is where I would write Sam Smith. All right? And because you don't want anyone to write things on your check after you've written it, you can put a line through any blank areas. Okay, so I'm going to write this check to Sam Smith. The date is 3/29/2020. Right, $10.51. So here is where I write the dollar amount, $10.51. On this second line here, I write this in words, 10 and 51 cents. 51 out of 100, right? That's a fraction of a dollar. 10 and fraction dollars. And here again, we're going to put some lines through. We don't want anyone to come in after and change this check that I've written, okay? Now, in the event that your numbers you can't read your numbers, the bank actually will use your words as the final judgment of the amount that the check is written for, okay? And then down here, geez, I keep leaning on that button. Down here, I would sign it, all right, with my signature. And this signature, folks, when you open a checking account, they will have a signature card on file. So your signature needs to look consistent. Otherwise, they're going to question it, okay? And then over here, in this line, this is like a memo line. I can write what this is for. All right, so that's an example of writing a check, okay? Now, let's say you're Sam Smith. I'm coming over here. I'm just writing it again. Sam Smith got a check for $10.51, and he's going to deposit it. All right, so his name is Sam Smith, and he's actually depositing it the same day, isn't he? His account number is, ABC123, whatever. So if you're going to make a deposit, maybe you're coming in with them cash too. Maybe Sam has a $50 bill that he got from his grandma for his birthday. So he's going to deposit $50 in cash, and then he's going to write a check. He's going to deposit this check for $10.51. If you have more than one check, what you do is you take this check number and you say, okay, check 1001 is $10.51. Maybe you got another check, somebody's number 352 for $17.12. Okay, maybe you got another check. But you can put the numbers there to help differentiate the amounts that you're putting in. All right, so then you'll get a subtotal. So right now I have $60.51 that's my subtotal of this deposit. But I do need to keep $10 in cash. So if I'm going to keep $10 in cash, that means my deposit now is $50.51. This will be the final amount that's going in to your checking account today. All right? Now, we are going to do an activity on a check register, but basically, this is the place where you're going to record deposits. You're going to record checks that you wrote. Okay? You're going to record uses of your debit card. So, for instance, let's say I'm Sam Smith. Okay. Let's say Sam Smith had $100 in his checking when we started all this. All right, he's going to deposit check 351. All right, so he's depositing, we said $50. Oops, $50.17. All right, so his new balance is $150.17. All right, so let's say Sam has to write a check out of his account. This deposit was $329, right? Basically filling in every column. Right, a deposit is something incoming to your checking account, where a payment is something outgoing. So let's say Sam had to write a check. I don't know what numbers his. Oh, it wasn't check 351. What am I doing? It was check 1001, right? So let's say he wrote a check to someone. I don't know what it is. Check 2. And he said, oh my gosh, on 329, I have to write a check to Home Depot because I needed that Home Depot. Got it ready. I needed that new light for my car, and I wrote a check for $18.42. All right. So now that is a payment. So I'm going to subtract that off of this, right? I would take this and I would subtract $18.42. Okay. Now let's say you used a debit card payment, whatever this new number is. Let's see. Something like this, right? And then if you used a debit card payment, he might use something like this. Debit card. I went to McDonald's, and I spent $8 or something. Right? So you got to decide, is it taking money out of your account or is it putting money in? All right, so we'll do an activity where you will complete the check register. All right, one last thing here. We want to compare savings plans. So we're going to use this equation right here. Right? An annual percentage rate is a rate often that the banks will use to say, oh, you get 6% interest, but it doesn't take into account compounding. So we want to calculate annual percentage yield, which will take into account compounding and tell you what you actually get on your savings account. So this is 1 plus R over K to the K minus 1. Notice this APY, AP, annual percentage yield. R is rate, K is number of time compounded. If it's annual interest, right, that's K equals 1, then APR equals APY. But if not, you need to calculate it. So I'm going to leave this as an example for you, and you will do 2 of these problems on your activity. If you have any questions, all right, please let me know.